Hey there, I've been talking quite a lot about the board game that I'm currently working on, but I never actually showed it before, so it's about time that we do this. Now note that I don't have a fantastic, great setup for it, so it's not great, but I tried my best. And note that also, this is kind of similar to the pitch that I did for publishers during Essen. So it is kind of a similar experience. It takes about 10 minutes to go over the game. It's an overview. I'm not going through every tiny little rule, but it should give you a very good idea of what the game is about. And that's it. Let's get on with it. Hi there, and welcome to Startup Board Game. In this game, every player starts their own company with an initial investment of $20,000, let's say, and the point is to make the most money by the end of the game and build the best company. The core unit are workers. As you can tell, this guy is friendly. He has a salary that must be paid every round of $3,000, and he has a special power that activates during one of the phases of the game. The special thing about workers is that they could have emotion tokens. As you can tell, I drew these myself. They're smileys, happy and sad. So a worker can be happy. For example, this guy has 2 happy tokens on him, and these tokens cancel each other out. So if I add a sad, right, they will cancel each other out and he will remain 1 happy. Now workers can have a maximum of 3 emotion tokens. So this guy is as happy as it gets and he'll produce more work for you during the work production phase. And if I flip these, you can see that this is a very, very sad worker. A worker with 3 sad emotion tokens will immediately leave your company. No matter what phase of the game this happens, if a worker has 3 negative emotion tokens, he will instantly leave and you will put him at the bottom of the worker deck and probably never ever see him again. So that's the basic worker. And now we can take a look at the different phases of the game. I'll get this a little bit closer so you can take a look at this work phase and round tracker. Let's just, adjust. There you go. So you can see that here you have the general work tracker. You just move your token along to track your work. We've got phases here, and we're going to play for 8 rounds. Now, these phases, I'll just note, there are a lot of phases here. Some of them are unnecessary and will be joined together for the final game. They're only here for convenience sake for the prototype. A good example is refresh cards. This doesn't really need to be its own phase. It could very much join in with by workers. So let's put back our round token over here and our phase token and start at the first phase, which is pay workers. Guess what you do at pay workers? You pay them their salary. Yeah. But unlike real life, you don't have to pay them. If you don't pay a worker, they simply get 3 negative emotion tokens. In the case of a worker without anything, they'll just immediately leave your company. But if the worker is happy and you don't pay them, they just get 3 negative emotion tokens. In this case, they'll just cancel these 3 happy tokens and he'll remain just neutral. So you can actually get away with not paying your workers, though you probably should, but you don't have to. So that's pay workers, and then we move on to handle emotions. This is where I'll show you the player aid. The bigger the company, the more general negative emotion tokens that you generate, sad emotion tokens, because you probably don't love everyone that you work with, and people together, they just sometimes make each other mad. So bigger company, more negative emotion tokens that you have to deal with every round. On top of that, if you have a big company, you start having overhead costs. On top of just paying all of their salaries, you also just need to pay an amount of money to keep them all together at the same place, under the same roof, working. So you deal with the negative emotion tokens and you pay your overhead, and then most of the worker powers activate. As we saw previously, this guy is friendly. He will add 1 happy to this worker, to himself, and then generate 1 happy which can be allocated in any way. You can already start telling that the key to winning this game is having a good strategy with workers that synergize well together, handling these negative emotions that come in, and having a happy company with good workers that create a lot of work and generate a lot of work, and then you can trade that work for money. So that is handle emotions, and then we move on to kind of the main phase of the game, which is buy workers. Every player has 3 tokens. As you can tell, these are, or maybe not, but these are briefcase tokens. These are tiny briefcases. One of these will go here on the work tracker, tracking your work, and I'll actually take my virtual opponent's token as well and put it over there, and I'm left with 2 tokens. Now we're going to go from the starting player. Let's say that's me. I have the big suitcase, which designates the starting player. We're going to go from me, all right, and go all the way around the table up to the last player, and then from the last player all the way around the table back to me, which means that every player is going to use 2 tokens. In this case, I'm going to use 1, then he's going to use both of these tokens, and I'm going to use my second token. What can you do with tokens? Well, you can tell that there are worker cards here, but there are also 2 other types of cards. There are permanents, which, as true to their name, they will stay with you after you buy them. They give you a constant bonus. They're permanent. They just stay with your company, give you a constant bonus throughout the entire game. And we have consumables. I call them equipment cards, where you buy them and you use them and they are consumed and go back to the pack, and, well, you maybe can find them again and use them again in the future. So these are the 3 card types, and I can take my token and pretty much put it wherever I want to. Workers, I hire, I don't have to pay them immediately. And these, well, now he has to use both of these, so let's say puts it over here, puts it over here, and then I'm going to use my last token and place it over here on snacks. If there's only 1 token, you could just take it. You just get that thing. So in a worker, you just hire, and these you have to pay their price, right? And you pay it to the bank, and that item is yours. But what happens if we both want the same card? Well, I placed my token first, so I will start the bidding process. I will say, let's say 0. And I can say 0 because workers, again, we don't have to pay them immediately. We only pay them during pay workers. So I could start at 0. He says 1,000. I say 2,000. He says 3,000. And I say, whoa, that's too rich for my blood. You can have that guy. And he has it for 3,000. He pays 3,000 to the bank, and he gets this worker. Now, if we bet on permanents or consumables, note that they have an initial price. This is a janitor. He costs 3,000. So the initial bid cannot be 0. It has to start at 3,000 and go on from there. You can obviously jump. You can go from 3,000 to 6,000 if you want, but the minimum is 1,000 differences. One more thing. Let's say this is his worker. I can take my token and put it on his worker. In this case, he doesn't have to protect him with a token. He will automatically defend his worker in a bid because it's his worker. He doesn't have to use up one of his tokens. Now, this is obviously a little bit harder for the attacking company. If this guy is sad, he still has incentive to defend him, because if he successfully defends him, the worker is going to say, whoa, okay, you really want me in your company, and he's going to stop being sad. But if the worker is happy, why would he want to leave? Obviously, if I give him more money. So we're still going to bid normally, but if I win, if the attacking player wins, I'm going to have to pay him a bonus of 2,000 in this case, depending on how happy he is. You know, if it was 1 happy, it'll be 1,000. And on top of the bid that I win, which we do normally, I'm going to have to pay him a bonus in order to make him come over to my company. So that is how you bid on workers and expand your company with permanents and consumables. Let me return all of these tokens. And that is kind of the main phase of the game where you expand your company. After that, we've got refresh cards, which again doesn't really need to be its own phase, but it is important to note that we will refresh the permanents and the consumables, but workers, we're not going to refresh all of them. We're only going to refresh a little bit of them. We actually have 8 in the middle of the table right now. It's a 2-player game. 2 times 4 is 8 workers, but we're only going to refresh 1 every round, which means workers are going to get scarcer and scarcer, and it makes a lot of sense for me to maybe try to steal my opponent's workers in the future. Maybe they'll fit better into my strategy. So there are going to be less workers, and the game's going to be a little bit more difficult as we move forward. After refreshing cards, we produce work. I'll once again show you the player aid. You can see here that workers will always produce 1 work, no matter how sad they are, but if they're happy, they produce even more work. So this guy, for example, not this guy, he's inexperienced. Let's take another example. This friendly guy, this is 1 work, and if he has 2 happy tokens on him, he will produce 1 for the worker themselves, plus 1, and plus another 1 for each happy token. So it's 1, 2, 3 work, 1 per happy token. Once you produce work, you will immediately display it on the work tracker over here. Let's say we just move this forward to 5, whatever. And then we've got post-production. There are some powers that activate during post-production, such as this guy is a senior, and in phase 6, he will add 1 happy to another worker producing less work than this worker. Some power activates during post-production, and after post-production, we can finally trade work for money. I'll show again the player aid. And you can see here that 5 work you can trade for 6,000, 10 work for 15, you've got 20 work for 35 or 40 work for 80. So the longer you push this, the longer you manage to survive with the money that you currently have, the better the trade will be when you finally trade work for money. It becomes a game of how much can I do with the work, with the money that I have right now until I really just need to make that big trade-off. And remember that you have to pay your workers. Well, you don't have to, but you should pay your workers. And you also are trying to buy permanents and equipment, and you're bidding on cards. So you do need money. And that's pretty much it. End of round. We move on to the beginning, and we move the round token. And we do this for 8 rounds, and the player with the most money and the best company, and when I say the best company, I mean the salary of all your workers factors in. Happy tokens are 1,000, sad tokens are negative 1,000, and the permanent cards that you have are also part of your company, and their value also counts into your final score. The player with the best score wins the game. There are a few other rules that I didn't go into, smaller things, but that's pretty much the core of the game, and that's it. That's Startup, the company management game. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next game. All right, so that was an overview of Startup board game, the company management game. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Obviously, I didn't play it, but you could tell a little bit of what it is. If you have any thoughts about the game, I would love to hear it. Maybe any theme changes that you might think. The game is still in development, right? So this is the core, and I do feel that I'm in a good place, but small changes might come in, and also the theme might actually change. I really like it as it is now, but I am considering trying out other things. So I don't know, it's still in development. It could still change, but that provides a pretty good overview. Again, I didn't show every single rule. Also, kind of forgot now that I think about it. Maybe I'll put this in post, showing off the little safes that I use in order to keep the money inside, so other players can't see it. And you place the thing as a roof. The player aid, you place it as a roof. But yeah, that's pretty much the game. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.